We're watching the last pair of witnesses testify this morning in the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. Closing arguments are expected to begin shortly after the prosecution wraps up. It follows a dramatic day in court yesterday during which the defense requested a mistrial. CBS News legal contributor Caroline Polisi joins us now. So, Caroline, what have you heard so far in this morning's testimony?
Yeah, trial's been underway now for a little bit under an hour. We're hearing again from the state's rebuttal expert witness. He's a forensic psychologist. And we're getting in now really to the heart of the matter, direct testimony regarding her state of mind, which goes to whether or not she should or should not be held criminally responsible. And we just heard about this expert's determination saying that he believes to a reasonable degree of medical certainty that Lindsay Clancy was experiencing symptoms of bipolar II disorder, not psychosis, and that this was an act of what's known as altruistic filicide. That is, Lindsay Clancy, he is saying, wanted so badly to kill herself that she killed her children in an effort to save them from basically being here without her and going through that pain. And so this is a really different theory than the prosecution has been putting forth up until this time. But again, it still goes to her state of mind. And you mentioned this is, they're trying to rehabilitate this witness after that debacle that happened yesterday in court. And I want to toss to that what we heard yesterday about a mistrial.
That was part of her expectation, that she and the children would be together in heaven with God. She was raised as a Catholic, and this, as I understand, Catholic considerations, that's not necessarily what happens. But when I asked her about that, when I said, isn't suicide a mortal sin?
Yeah, can I see counsel over here?
Yeah, so Caroline, I mean, obviously that we've now heard the mortal sin piece mentioned multiple times during this trial. I want to ask you two questions. One, do you think that request for a mistrial should have been granted? But also, just going back to what you said about the prosecution witness now testifying that she could have been suffering from a form of a bipolar disorder. Would that actually also make the argument that she wasn't in her right mind, the way that that the defense was trying to argue about postpartum psychosis?
Yeah, I'm going to answer the second question first. That's a really, really good question, because people are conflating the defense of just having a mental illness that, they're saying that should not absolve one of criminal responsibility. And that's right. We're seeing the difference here between a clinical diagnosis and what the law says. You can have a very severe mental illness and be in a state really far removed from reality, which is essentially what this expert is saying. But if you're able to know the difference between right and wrong and conform your conduct, that is what matters in the eyes of the law. So this expert is saying, yes, she was severely depressed. Maybe she wasn't in touch with reality, but she knew what she did was criminally wrong, morally wrong. And that's where we're getting into this territory of a potential mistrial, because we're getting into the religious beliefs of both the defendant and, what was going on in her mind. And so, yes, this was close to a mistrial yesterday, because that's not allowed by the rules of evidence and it's not relevant. Do I think it should have been granted? No, there was a curative instruction given to the jurors, but I think it's likely an issue for appeal if there is a conviction in this case.
Caroline, we always love having you. Your expertise is so valuable, and I really appreciate you breaking down that point between the bipolar diagnosis and then this postpartum psychosis. Because the second that you brought that up, I was looking at that like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But that point about
honestly,
intent, yeah.
It's confusing as to what the prosecution's theory of this case has been, but it all boils down to that question.
Wow.
All right. Appreciate you. I'm sure we'll be checking back in with you throughout the day.